Say nobody like these black folks here in Chicago. And he's right. I think you all got the rest of the country beat. And I think that also has something to do with spirit too. It has something to do with a unique people. And you should always, they say that you can tell the one that the government has more force in and more input in trying to disperse you, trying to discombobulate you, trying to annihilate you, and that is a reason. They study migration patterns. They study migration patterns. They know certain group of people came from Alabama, Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? They knew that the New York people, a lot of them came from South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. But you know, you have Georgia and and it's interesting here because when I was in college, I think I knew one person from Chicago when I was in South Carolina. Then I went to Clark Atlanta. That was at Benedict College, a black school in South Carolina, in Columbia. When I went to Clark Atlanta, I met a whole group of people from Chicago. So there's different migration patterns. And I say that to say that the government studies the migration patterns on where certain brothers and sisters either come out of slavery or roots from the Caribbean, and they study this stuff night and day, so they know just exactly what type of brand of Negro that they're dealing with in certain cities. You see, certain cities. It's just like where I'm from in South Carolina. They were real hard on the brothers and sisters from South Carolina because they knew that South Carolina has more black people as a state than any place in the country. You got whole counties of black people that outnumber the whites, but yet the whites win in the elections every year. You know what I'm saying? And all. So that means that they got a certain mentality that they put on a certain Negro at a certain time, but then again they know that there's also certain talents. Like there was, like my town, the town I'm from was a small town, Mullins, South Carolina. Everybody in the town has a sense of humor. Everybody, my mama, my grandmother, my aunts, my uncle, everybody in the town has. It's almost like you couldn't survive in the town not unless you had a sense of humor. So it stands to reason that at the same time the crack cocaine was going into big cities, Mullins had an infestation of crack. We talking about over 15, 16, 17 years ago. That meant that the government said, wait a minute, these are a special brand of Negro, because they study not only, they study on the sociological path of what type of Africans doing what type of things. Well, you say, well, why would this little small town, population 6,000, it's not even on the map, why would they have a crack cocaine epidemic the same time the major cities was having it 20 years ago, 18 years ago? When this thing started really hitting, we tracked it back to 1983. Shortly after, like I said, the country didn't really know about it as an epidemic, as a national phenomenon until the basketball player Lenny Bias died in 1986. Was supposed to be going to the Boston Celtics, number one draft pick, and ended up going up there and getting killed over the summer, smoking some crack, his heart burst or whatever. But at the same time, the town in South Carolina was getting, had a crack infestation. Now this has a lot to do with the science of how they study us. Well, why have all these places, this little town that's not even on the map, would have the same plight as major cities? It is because they have studied the history, and one of the history in the modern age, the 20th century, no other town in South Carolina had a riot. The same time the riots was going on in the 1968, was going on, when they killed Martin Luther King and all was going across the country, except this little town called Mullins. So the government said, wait a minute, them niggas was the only one that had a riot at that time. So we're going to send the massacre to that particular part of the state. Another aspect that happened was white boy wrote the book The Flash of the Spirit. Can't think of the guy's name. Wrote the book The Flash of the Spirit.
Ferris Thompson.
Right. Did some studies and said, well, it's interesting here that a lot of the slaves from South Carolina came from the Congo. That's very key. Now we're going to track this Congo thing because that's very key on a lot of things that's happening right now. This also has something to do with the Rwanda aspect that happened 10 years ago. And all of a sudden you got two movies, Hotel Rwanda, and the one that's airing tonight on HBO. The one that's airing tonight on HBO. What's the name of that? It's called something. What, anybody know?
What is it? What is it about?
It's a Rwanda.
Ghost from Rwanda?
It's something else. Anyway, it's coming on tonight on HBO. So if you people in the lecture, if you miss it, just tune in on Tuesday night. Whatever comes on Saturday night comes on Tuesday night. So you'll be able to catch it on Tuesday night. And then it'll play for the next 6 months. And but anyway, why did this Rwanda thing come out 10 years after the crime? Well, that's another thing. Number one, they never report a lot of incident when it comes to us and the subjects that they rule over in the same century. So because we're in a new century and this happened in the 1990s and the 20th century, it's okay. It's a science that they do. A lot of things has been going on, a lot of reports. You had a Marcus Garvey special that came out. You had a lot of things that normally you would never get in the century that it was in. They had a lot of things coming out on PBS, and a lot of the cable stations also have a lot of documentaries that you normally wouldn't get. The reason why is because we're in a new century, and for some reason, the people who rule over us say you never track the plight of a person in that same century. So this is the way they do it. Unfortunately, it was 10 years before anybody knew about it, as far as the masses. But you already had two aspects of the Rwanda thing. Stay with me because I'm going to go into that at the in the middle of the lecture to tell you some other things on the spirit level, which is going on. Because for whatever we have on the physical realm, there's a spiritual realm that is dealing with a certain amount of things. And we're going to get into this incident that just happened in Atlanta last weekend with the guy, what's the guy name of? Brian Nichols, which is nothing but, what you call it, MK Ultra. MK Ultra, which is Manchurian Candidate. So we're going to go into that, but it's more than just them saying, well, let's just test it out on this Negro and see will he kill people. No, they've been doing that with the Crips and Bloods, because the Crips and Bloods was put together at Pepperdine University, and they were also in the MK Ultra. So we are finding out why people just all of a sudden start killing. Like in 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks in Philadelphia, they had 18 murders. On the north side. Black on black. That's MK Ultra. You see. Also, starting this past summer, they have had literally dozens of black men raping 80-year-old women. You see what I'm saying? That's MK Ultra. That means that there's a new face of terrorism. And we're going to go into this particular part. So we're going to go into that particular part. You think it's ready for my man to do his thing? You on? Oh, you on? Okay, cool. Oh, you straight then. So we're gonna pull libations. You want to do that on the tape too? Yes, sir. All right then. Gonna pull libation, and then we're gonna go into what happened. And it's not just. I'm gonna give you the real reason behind it, and track this thing. You see what I'm saying? The real reason. This starts with not only Timothy McVeigh, but here's this other Nichols, Terry Nichols. Then you got Brian Nichols. Everything is everything. So we got to give you the key on what's really going on behind why this guy snapped. You see what I'm saying? And went postal all of a sudden. You know what I'm saying? You've heard that before. Well, I had the opportunity when I was in college to work for the post office. And I understand when I see people shooting each other up in the post office, I don't say a damn word. I say, I know what's going on. Because they say, well, they asked the question, they said, well, why did you do it? Why did you go postal? And they said, the mail never stops running. And they're right. The mail never stops running. We would get out a room full of mail, and at 6 o'clock, it would be another room full of mail. So I understood that particular aspect. But there's more than just this guy snapping. We're going to get into that particular aspect. We got a lot of things to cover. I'm going to do my infomercial right now because I got a few things, and first come, first serve. I got a book. Here's a book called The Mask of Darkness, Occult History of Melanin. The Occult History of Melanin. It was a book put together a couple of years ago by myself. Anyway, we was able to get this particular thing out. So we got a few copies of these. The people want to get them. That's only $5 for the book. We have also this particular thing here. Remember, I was talking about Lakshmi, which is also the one you will see here, is also the goddess of prosperity, wealth, as well as a form of Mayat. Is a form of Mayat. But I know everybody needs some damn money. Know what I'm saying? Because as we know, I don't understand how we survive. I mean, you go to the supermarket and you can't even go in there without dropping $40. You know what I'm saying? And that's for some bread and some meat, two or three sodas or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But if you're gonna really do some serious shopping, you know what I'm saying? You gotta start at a damn 100. You know what I'm saying? That's just starting. And that's the people who don't have no children. You see what I'm saying? So I know in this warfare, people need some money. There's a science to Think and Grow Rich. The guy had the book Think and Grow Rich. It wasn't a hodgepodge or some type of hocus pocus. There was a science to that based on the mindset. And so here's an affirmation for the goddess Lakshmi, and you recite this affirmation in the mornings or whenever they say do it, and basically you create a force field around you that attracts money and attracts things. It's just like, it's the same thing happening with sisters. You be looking for a man, but in the process, as time go on, each day your self-esteem plummets further and further and further into the depths. And so once your self-esteem goes down and you don't have the confidence in yourself, then what happens here, you stop radiating a certain energy that attracts people to you. You understand what I'm saying? That attracts people to you. So you stop radiating that essence. And then you can see somebody, you say, she don't look like shit. How the hell she get a nigga like that? You see what I'm saying? No, the difference is her self-esteem wasn't damaged or gone into a certain incontinuance. So these are master spiritual laws and certain things that you emit. And it's just like anything else, based on psychology, based on these white folks going and spending thousands of dollars at these seminars, and basically they keep telling them over and over again, it's all based on your thinking, your thoughts. Well, it's the same thing with the money thing also. It's like that. One of the guys, I think what a rich man tells his son and a poor man tells his son. And he said, and the guy said, I was raised, my mother was with a poor man at first, and then they divorced and she got with a rich man, and he said he knew the difference because as far as his different fathers. He said the poor man would go, we can't afford it, I don't have enough money for that. You see, he said, but the rich father would go, well, even though if they didn't have enough money at the time, he said, let's figure out a way on how we can get that. But the whole concept of we can't afford it, I don't have enough money, never entered into the process of the psyche. So it was a certain way that one father thought. Well, it's the same thing. We're still talking metaphysics. Everything is based on your archetype of the collective unconsciousness, on how you emit things, and how you basically relay your thoughts between the spirit world, which is your deepest part of your subconscious mind, or the physical world. You see, so this particular piece here on Lakshmi is an affirmation Fortunately, on this particular aspect, there's an actual goddess of prosperity. So you know, you go to Asia and you see they got all these conferences and these books on feng shui. And feng shui is how you situate your house and situate your environment so that you can get a certain amount of flow of energy coming in. Well, the feng shui is a later system. The original feng shui goddess is the goddess Lakshmi. You see, the goddess Lakshmi is the goddess of prosperity. We'll show the pictures. This is Lakshmi, and this is Lakshmi, and even this is a form of Lakshmi also, which I'll get into in a few minutes. So anyway, we have the affirmation to Lakshmi also. We got a few dynamite CDs that have a different of the speakers speaking over the beats or the music. The brother named Darryl Rice out of Charlotte, North Carolina, put those together, as well as I got a few DVDs and stuff like that, you know, that you could also get. One of them is this Love DVD, which is pretty much a smoker. It's The Mysteries of Love, which is the science of love. Science of love. And I was in St. Louis doing a lecture, and I was breaking down this science of love, and this girl came and she said, no, you need to do a whole lecture on that. I said, I've been doing lectures on it for the last 5 years. She said, no, a complete lecture. So one lecture led into two, so we have that, as well as an actual tape on the goddess Lakshmi. So we have those, which leads us to these particular pictures right now that we're talking about here. You have Mayat, which is coming from the sarcophagus. I talked about this the last time. The sarcophagus of King Tut. You got the goddess Mayat. For protection, this is the goddess Kali. Everybody needs a form of Kali for protection. This is an ass-whipping deity. So this is the goddess Kali. This is coming from the ancient Dravidians, or what they call Hindu Kush. So this is actually pre-dynastic Egyptian. Everybody needs to align themselves with some Kali energy. Whenever you are feeling evil, you women, whenever you are feeling evil, don't look at yourself as being negative. That's just a part of your God-given right. That's the Kali energy in you, which means that this is an energy that predates the physical laws of creation. It's a chaos energy that gave birth to creation. So whenever you were feeling like a bitch, that's not necessarily negative. It's just that you have been in a patriarchal society that that praises certain aspects of male psyche, and when it comes to you, suppress those things. You see what I'm saying? So his hero status and warrior status is celebrated in all ancient religions and all ancient cultures, whereas your particular power, when it's time for you to get the bitch and say, I'm gonna put up somebody's behind, that's scorned, vilified, and shunned, because here goes again. That's that double, you see, aspect of someone praising one thing and vilifying another thing. So the goddess Kali is very powerful at this time, and that's and really powerful at this time, because that's what caused the tsunami. I'm going to get into that particular science. We're talking about the mother goddess. The mother goddess. Now you're saying, well, this guy is selling these pictures, and I don't know. It's a method to my madness. This cost me $200 damn. You see what I'm saying? So I had to go get a rare book that was hid in France, because this is coming from the ancient Dravidian people, and it's a rare book, so I had to pay $200 for the book. But that's how much you will go to get the information to your people. You see what I'm saying? So that's a very rare book. This one is the money maker, because this is without a shadow of a doubt, and we'll show this again on the overhead if you don't see this. This is the Madonna and Child. In this particular case, it's also the goddess Lakshmi holding up either the god Kama, which is desire, or Eros. You know what is Eros or Cupid? It's in Egypt, it's the baby Horus. In Greece, it's Cupid, Eros, and in Rome, it's Cupid, and later on, it's the baby Jesus. And in Hindu, it's the baby Krishna. This this is the same aspect of the Divine Mary, but without a shadow of a doubt, that's a sister. If anybody, hold on, let me do this right quick. Cut off them lights right quick. I want to show this. So you don't have no doubt. Cut off all of them right quick. That's a sister. That be a sister. Look at the thighs, look at the hips, look at the bosom, and look at the dreadlocks, or the locks. You see what I'm saying? So this is without a shadow of a doubt a sister. This has been hidden for years. They hid it over in France. So in so many words, you have the caste system of East Indians. They go, look, we got all the black art of the original Dravidian people that basically is a black origin. We don't want to see that black origin. So what happened was, when England started ruling India, the caste system of the lighter skinned East Indians gave all this to the British Museum and also to a Museum Guimet in France. So a lot of this is hidden in France. You go to France, there's the Louvre, which is the big museum. This is a smaller museum where all of the stuff was hidden. That's why it cost me $200 just to get this. You see what I'm saying? A picture's worth 1,000 words. So they gave up all of those black, untouchable, original pre-dynastic, what they call Hindu Kush or Indus Kush, which is Ethiopia, which is the people of that original land, or pre-dynastic Egyptian. And this is one of probably one of the oldest ones that we have of the Madonna and Child. You see, hidden in France up until January of this year. You see what I'm saying? When I had to go sift out and get some rare books, and the white boy like, now $200. This came out in 1974. Not in this country. 200 bucks. What you gonna do? You see what I'm saying? Y'all all right? So we have this also. All of these are 5 books. You can cut on the light. You can cut on the light because you can cut on all of them. Yeah. We also have. This is the temple of Dendera, which is the goddess Heru, Hathor, which is the goddess Hathor. Well, I'll show that. Which is the goddess Hathor, which is the Egyptian equivalent to the goddess Lakshmi. This is the temple of Dendera. This is the inside zodiac of Dendera that was blown down, is now in the Louvre in France. Which so whenever you get in an argument of this old male deity shit, this concept here is 90,000 years old. And in the middle of this concept is a hippopotamus deity with breasts, which means it's the great mother. There's nothing that predates this, so the argument, the gig is up with the male patriarchy aspect of God being a man. See, once you bring them back, this is 90,000 years old, the concept. And there was an older temple in ancient Egypt that when they was getting ready to build a modern temple of Dendera, they had a papyrus inside of the crack of the wall. And basically the papyrus gave the complete dimensions of all the hieroglyphics of Metanetta that was on the older temple. So basically they just built a new fortified temple based on the structure in stone, but the hieroglyphics and the concepts and the motifs were 90,000 years old, as Gerald Massey puts it. Book of the Beginning, Volume 2. As a result, this zodiac is the oldest that we know known to man, but in the middle of that is the woman. You see. So this is blown there. This is in France. This is the inside of the temple of Dendera that you'll be able to see. You'll be able to see. Now, the temple of Dendera, Heru, every summer, there's a grand procession and a marriage goes on with the Egyptian Christ, Horus or Heru. Horus or Heru. Every summer, they marry these two temples. So the new rendition is the temple of Horus or Heru. And they marry these two temples. and they have a grand procession where one leaves. I think that one comes out of the temple of Horus, and procession goes into the temple of Dendera. This is the temple of Horus at Edfu, and they marry these two temples, which also is symbolic of the sacred spiritual marriage.